When Keely Favel was 24 years old, something extraordinary happened to her. She discovered that she was pregnant, but her doctors didn't believe her. Even though her pregnancy test came back negative, it was obvious by her growing figure that she was with child. Then her doctors performed an ultrasound on her stomach, and that's when they detected something they couldn't explain right away. The results shocked Favel, who didn't even have time to prepare for her future to change before she was whisked into surgery. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Favel was the kind of gal who loved her curvy body almost as much as going to the gym, so she didn't understand why she was gaining weight. And nothing she did could slow down the growth. She was quoted by articleskill.com explaining, "It crept up so slowly that I didn't know anything was wrong. I thought I was putting on timber," she said. And no amount of tweaking to her diet or exercise regimen could slow down the weight gain. Favel was hopeful that this was just something hormonal and that her body weight would regulate itself. But her stomach continued to grow, and more importantly, her belly hurt every time she touched it, and it was hard like a watermelon. Her stomach swelled quickly, and within a couple of months, she already looked like a woman who was 9 months pregnant. This scared Favel because of how rapidly it happened, which also put some questions in her mind. At this point, Keely's biggest problem in her mind was which outfit to wear to her company's Christmas party. Even dress that she tried on seemed to highlight her stomach, which was exactly what she didn't want to do while she tried to figure out what exactly was going on with her body. She started to get self-conscious about her body, as anyone who put on dozens of pounds overnight without knowing why would. She felt like she wasn't thin enough, even though she was living a very healthy lifestyle and working out constantly. She wasn't sure if she was pregnant, but the mere possibility scared the heck out of her and her boyfriend Jamie Gibbons, despite being hopelessly in love with one another. Simply put, they were too young and certainly not ready for this. But she had to know. Keely knew that the doctors had told her that she wasn't pregnant, but she still had doubts in her mind because her stomach continued to grow at a rapid pace. She at least hoped that the problem would be over with soon, because pregnancies only last for 9 months. Once she had dealt with the problem for over a year, she really started to worry. Favel and Gibbons, who had been together for 10 years, bought a pregnancy test and waited for the results. But when the test came out negative, the baffled couple bought a second test. But that one also came out negative, so they were left with only one choice. Keely was stunned to see that she wasn't actually pregnant, or so the test said. This left her with even more questions because she couldn't even fathom what was going on inside of her body. But she knew that whatever was happening was not normal. Her co-workers and doctors said that her fainting spells were simply caused by stress and nothing else. She decided to go back to life as normal and continue working, even though her body was sending her signals to slow down. After she regained consciousness, Favel rushed herself to the doctor's office to get checked out again. It was a tough period in work, and when I passed out, my GP put it down to stress, she explained. Left with no other options, she kept on going as if nothing was wrong, but there was. People that she met often asked her when her baby was due, which made Keely feel embarrassed. She felt so ashamed of her body that she eventually started going along with the bit and let people think that she was carrying a baby. It was easier than trying to explain the turmoil that she was in. It was ultimately 2 whole years that Keely waited for answers. She and her boyfriend Jamie were both flabbergasted by the situation, but they tried to keep a positive mindset. They knew that they could support a child if they needed to, but that didn't seem to be a possibility at the moment. Her doctors pushed aside her feelings with another claim. They thought that she was simply overweight. They had no explanation for why her body would be storing excess weight only in her abdomen, but they didn't give her a second theory on her body's strange experience. Despite several attempts to get doctors to listen to her, they didn't take her seriously. They even blamed the bump on her acne medication, but she knew that wasn't the case. Then her general physician shed some light on the mystery. The CT scan showed that the growth inside her stomach was an ovarian cyst that was 24 centimeters thick and filled with fluid. In this case, it might have been blocking the blood flow to the ovaries, and if it burst, it would put her life in danger. The doctor told her that she might have more than one cyst, and that she might end up losing one of her ovaries, but she would certainly lose her life if they didn't operate. So, she called her mom, who lived in Australia, to visit her. Although her father wasn't able to fly to Wales, her mother was at her side 2 days later. Now, all she had to do was emotionally prepare for the surgery, which was set to take place in 4 weeks. But when the time came, All the love and support from her family and boyfriend weren't enough to keep her calm. Although she wasn't pregnant, a high-risk obstetric specialist informed her that doctors had to make an incision from her chest all the way to her pelvic bone, which was commonly performed back in the day of early C-sections. And while this terrified her to the core, she had to deal with it. From the moment that Keely exited the operation room, the hospital staff around her were excited to show her the outcome of her surgery. I remember still being groggy from the anesthetic as they wheeled me back to the ward, and excited hospital staff was shoving photos in front of me, she said. After her operation, her family, friends, and co-workers offered her their emotional support, which truly helped her during her recovery period. Now she's back to being her old self again, but she still has some scars from her long-term ordeal. The cyst had made doing basic things like walking up the stairs very difficult. But now Mr. Whippy, as she had nicknamed it, was out of her body and out of her life. And soon, her life started to change for the better. She had been carrying a 60-pound cyst, which was almost like carrying 7 fetuses for several years in her stomach. And although it was gone, it left her with some serious stretch marks. But that's a small price to pay to finally be rid of the cyst that was making her life difficult.